Going to start talking now about scenery, which I'm a little bit more comfortable with than the wiring that we've been talking about. And specifically this street scene, both the buildings, the street, and the cemetery that I'm going to build here on the front. But we'll take them in sections and we'll take them in parts. First of all, this city scene is exactly like ones I've seen coast to coast, border to border. Every corner of the United States has a city scene that looks something like this. I have a driveway, terrace, flat yard, driveway, terrace. It just steps right up the city street as the street goes along. And it's, like I say, it's quite common. What I have here now is I have about a 3.5 to 4 foot wall in each section. So they step up more or less the same. The other thing that I've done is I've tried to make things look a little bit different between the various houses. So if you look at this house here, it has a doorway on the left, 2 windows here on the front, the porch and the balustrades. What we have here is almost exactly the same thing in both of these houses. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it's exactly the same mold all the way across on all of these houses. So what do we want to do then? Well, we're going to take a look at how to modify them. This house has had the foundation, which was stonework. I've taken a piece of 10,000 styrene, put over the top of that, and painted it with a gray paint. So this one looks like it has a concrete foundation. Plus, I'll change the paint color in some of the fronts and sides, and that's the first thing. Plastic buildings look plastic. Why do they look plastic? Well, they're shiny. If you notice, this first building does not have that shine to it. So our first step is to take the building apart and paint it. The second step then will be to come in and add some details to scenic this thing a little bit, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this building, take it apart, and we'll show you what to do with it. So stay tuned. Here on the bottom side or inside, you can see that I have some screws back in here in the corners. So I have a Phillips head long screwdriver to do those. And then for the windows, they have tabs in them. And the easiest thing to do on that, let's see if I can get it so you can see it. I want to push on the bottom 2 tabs, that pops them loose. And then I simply go underneath here and pull on it, and that window will drop right out. Rather than bore you while I do all that, we'll take all this apart and then we'll come back. As I have the building apart, got a big pile of parts here. The one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a parts drawer, and I'm going to put all my screws and all my pieces together in one little parts drawer so I can find them again. But now I'm ready to try and paint these. First thing I've done is I've taken that a little bit yellower building than what it was or what it is now. I've already sprayed this, and the color that I've used, that's a camouflage color from Rust-Oleum Sand. Okay, so that's the first color I did. The other thing is I went to the store and I got some new Krylon. They're always changing on me, but this is the gray primer. And I sprayed the underside, believe it or not, of my roof. Now to me, it's very important to get the underside painted because this is the side that's going to be seen by anyone that looks underneath that roof. You're going to try and make it look like it's kind of a red asphalt tile roof because they're very square and even. They look like asphalt tiles. The other thing that I've done here, but here's a Van Gogh marker. This one's again Artist Pastel, but I use the warm gray. And to use this, all I'm going to do, I'm just going to rub that on. I do it kind of a circular motion and cover that chimney. As a matter of fact, I cover it so much it looks like that. I've got that thing absolutely covered, and I made sure that I pushed into this chimney. Then all I have to do is lay this down now, and I'm going to vigorously start to rub this off. And because this is so oily, it really clings into those grooves. That's what I just did. Turn it around. There's the one that I cleaned off earlier. Turn it up so you can see it a little bit better. I have prepared my paint stick. And I put the sticky side out and then taped it down here to hold it. But I've stuck my retaining walls or my foundation walls on there, and the first thing that I'll do with that is go back and spray that with the gray paint. What I want to do now is I want to go to my building here. And I should wait a day or so to do this, but I'm going to give you an idea. So I want my field of the building here to be this sandy color. But I want these corner boards here, all the way up each side, to be white. White was a major trim color. Well, I'm going to stick that right down on the edge of my wall trim. You can see it here. I've just left that 1x6 exposed there. And what I'll do then is come in with my knife, cut that off just a little bit shy of that corner trim. Like that. If I didn't mark the building, we're in good shape. I didn't. So now what I can do is come in here on this. I'm going to lay this down on that wall and just barely miss my trim board. So there I am with the trim board still showing that way. That's done, and now I have the building lined out here on this side at least with my brown board showing here and my brown board showing over here. So I'll do the same thing on the other side over here. And by the way, to make this, I call it frisket material, all I did was take a long piece of paper and I picked one edge that I tried to cut with a ruler to get really straight. I take a piece of masking tape, tear it off as long as this paper is, and then stick it down on the edge here with the tape hanging out, as you can see here, so it's sticky on the back side, so it holds my hand as I stick it on. That makes a frisket paper. The next thing that I have to do is go back to my windows that I have 15 bazillion of here. I'm going to stick those down on my paint stick. Now I go to Lowe's and I get these all the time at the paint department. They'll give them away to you. I'm going to tear off a strip like that. Then I'm going to tear off a shorter strip, and I'm going to tear that shorter strip in half. I'm going to stick that against itself. I'll stick that down with the sticky side here out, wrap that around so it stays. Now I have the sticky side up here, and I'll stick that down by putting one on this end and pulling that nice and tight, stick that down. So now I have a sticky stick here, and I can come along here and I can take all my windows. Let's paint it all white, and then if we want to come back and do something else, we can. And this time I'll take you into the paint booth with me. Okay, so here I am in the paint booth, and the first thing I want to do, I'm going to spray it real quick because I want to get this white on here and get the tape off of the building. I don't want to stick to that new fresh paint. So let's spray the white on the trim, and then we'll do the rest later. I have a super good draft in here. You can stand right here, or your camera, you never saw any of that paint coming your way. If you're going to spray paint with anything like this, I fully suggest that you get a real spray mask. That's one that has the cartridges on it and will actually protect you. But I can get away with it here in the booth because I've got a blower that's intended to allow me to stand here and not have to have the mask on. I'm going to spray the rest of these parts white, and then I'll see you back in the layout room. Done, or one of the things I want to do is review, and then so you can understand how much has been done to this house in a very short period of time. This is the way it appeared originally. A front that's very, very plain. The chimney is on the left-hand side of every building as we go up the block. Also, the foundation is a gray plastic, and you can see that over here on this one that has not been painted yet. What I did, however, was I did paint up the one that I have here, and I went with some latex acrylics, some blobs here that I've got of browns and yellows and grays and whatever, and daubed those in all over the rock. I sprayed that with some Valspar gray primer to kind of tone it down, and that got my foundation looking pretty good, I think. Now the next thing I decided was, of course, and we talked about earlier, we need to do some changes to the house. One thing is that I don't want the light from this building to be shining back onto the background. I took my window casting, and it came with a frosted plastic insert. So what I did was I went to my drawing program and I drew up a whole bunch of these guys. They're just black inserts, and they're cut exactly the same size as the plastic. Okay, so we're going to take that, we're going to insert that right back in the window like it was originally. There we go. So now our house is back together. So now I don't have to worry about the building when I put it in here with the light shining on the back. And what I did here was I came in, this porch was way too small. This is the original porch as it appeared on the house to begin with. There's not even enough room for a person to stand. The new porch is 5 by 6, and I printed it on the M3D printer, the 3D printer. Great modeling tool, by the way. And it made a beautiful front porch. Then I came back and I drew again, and I drew these railings. So now I have a railing on each side, which was very, very typical of a house in the 60s and 70s. Even now, up into the present time, these wrought iron railings are quite common. Then the other thing that was common back in those days is the awning. I wanted either a porch or an awning. A porch was much more complicated to make, so I went with the awning. In AutoCAD, I drew a template, which I cut out in plastic, and used that to cut out the awning to be able to glue it in place. So now my building really, I think, and it's just simply looking more like a building that I would want to live in. So I'm going to put a lawn light out here, or a little torch light out there in front. A little HO1 would work great here at O scale. It can work in O scale, or it might work in N scale, depending on what the item might be. The other thing I did was I went inside my building and I put in a light box. And this light box is going to allow me to have a little room on the front of my house. So I put in clear windows, which I cut out also in that same template that I used for the black windows. You can see them there now if they shine. And I substituted my frosted window for clear ones on the side window here, side window on the other side, and the front door and the front window, so I can now look in. I did leave it absolutely plain. I put in an LED light, which I've got a detailed shot for you to look at. I always inset mine down in. They're a little easier to use that way. So I'm going to use it as a house for sale. That justifies my empty room, also justifies me having a light on in there. And like I say, I'll put that porch light out front, which will be kind of a completed scene. It'll put me some ambient light out here in the front, which I really want to do. The other thing I'm going to do in the next episode, we'll talk about the double driveway back here, the concrete with the green growing up in between it, which was quite common. We'll add some electric meters and a gas meter back there on the driveway. We'll do an awful lot of the scenery work to actually plant the building. I may put a fence back. I've got to have some kind of a break between my layout and the background. You never want to let people see that gap between your layout and the background. So we'll talk about how to hide that. The last thing I want to do is wrap up with the little building, the marker house, which I've been working on actually while I was shooting both of these episodes, so it's been kind of intertwined a little bit. The little building is looking, I think, really good. I'm going to give you another close-up of this building. Now, this is with a tar paper roof from Clever Models. I just downloaded the first edge I brought out. I don't know if you noticed or not, but it's all white. And what I want to do to correct that is simply take a Sharpie marker, and anytime you have white paper like that you want to get rid of, either do the colored marker that matches the color of what's going on. In this case, I'm tar paper, so I can use black. But I'm going to put my finger up against that, put my marker on here so I don't come over, and I'm just going to literally color in with the marker. And just that quick, I've gotten rid of all that. Here we go, put that on. And that's a wrap up on the marker house. I probably won't do any more with it. The marker house has been a lot of fun to work on. It's been intertwined with the 2 episodes that I've been doing on redoing the plastic house. And you may not have realized if I was doing like all 4 of them at one time. At any rate, it's been a lot of fun. One thing I do want to offer to you is an email address to which you can correspond with me if you have any questions, and I'll be glad to answer them immediately. It's a little bit harder for me to keep up with the blog time or the comments sometimes on YouTube, but if you send them an email directly to my computer, I guarantee you I check it 5, 6, 7 more times a day sometimes, and I'll get an answer back to you very quickly. The email address is info@modelrailroadinguniversity.com. That's info@modelrailroadinguniversity.com. And simply send me whatever questions or comments you have. If you have a request for an episode on a particular subject, be sure and write to me. I want to make this more interactive between you and I so that the shows are actually tailored to what you all want. In the meantime, until we get together again, happy model railroading.